Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV episode 545. I'm your host, John Van Derzen, solo by myself, as it always should be, as it always has been, and as it always will be. We've kicked Terry Miller out of the podcast. No, actually, I can't do that. Legally, I don't know if I can do that. We're partners. But on top of that, he's got a lot of connections. He lines up most of the interviews. Yeah, I'm not going to kick him out. He's somewhere on a plane right now between Asia and the United States. So maybe over Alaska, because I know they go, that shortest route goes way up high. So maybe somewhere, maybe he's over Canada. I don't know. But he will not be joining us tonight because he is on a plane. Let's just hope that his plane safely lands upright and in all one piece. I've been having some issues with that lately. So let's everyone just give a shout out that we keep Terry Miller in one piece. Anyway, it is Tuesday night. We have 2 weeks before the start of the season. It was a quiet week. There were some things going on. We got some social media. We got some events that happened. We've got a little bit of news. Yeah, so I reached out on our Discord. If you don't know where that is, kind of dig around. You can probably find our Discord. If not, send a message, and we'll get you set up on our Discord. There's a lot of fun people in there. But on what we should talk about, and Ray gave me quite a few different little things, one or two that I'd actually forgotten about. So thanks a lot, Ray. But first and foremost, let's get some of the small little things taken care of, some of the events that happened this past weekend. Our former start to the season, 47th Annual Wintertime Open, the Pro Weekend, presented by Legacy Discs. The TD was one Steven Rico. Shout out to Stevie Rico. Him and I had the last time we chatted, which was a few months ago, it was good. It was very nice. There was some broing out there. But winning this particular event was not Steve Rico. It was not Bomba Rico. It was the newest in the long line of Ricos, Cam Rico, shooting 29 under par. Now, Cam is Bomba's son and Stevie's nephew. You got that? If not, there'll be a test later. We'll do some family genealogy, and we'll trace the Ricos all the way back to wherever their homeland is. But Cam shot a 10.28, a 10.42, and a 10.16. Cam's pretty young. I want to say he's like 17 years old. He's a player that I think, like a lot of our younger players, if he goes on tour, I mean, he's only 1,004 rated right now, but, look at these round ratings. He's probably your high 10 rated guys, like 10-15 to 10-20. I bet you that's where he would end up on tour if he decided to go out and play on tour. Probably cashing in a few events, probably missing cashes in this first year. I don't know if that's his long-term future goals, but ultimately Cam is the next Rico to be reckoned with. Second place, Aviel Gomez. Third place, Kirby Snyder. Fourth place, Ethan Wellen. And a tie for fifth place between Eli Haushalter and Brett Stetson. And as you can tell, not the names that we're used to seeing here. As we talked about last week, with the tour now starting on the East Coast, this event just doesn't get the star power that it used to. Great event. Steve Rico has done a phenomenal job in keeping this event going. 47 years. Not as old as Saturday Night Live, but not far off. 3 years. We'll talk a little more about Saturday Night Live later. Over in the FPO, Owen Scoggins coming out of the off season, getting her beak a little wet. $480. She shoots a 992, 1,004, and 1,016. Are you kidding me? Like, these are scores that could win you an Elite Series event this year. And she, right out of the gate, there's no slowing Own down. If you think Father Time is catching up to Own, I've got a bridge to sell you because I don't think it's happening yet. If she can just stay healthy, get that elbow, hopefully a nice long off season has helped her get recuperated, and she comes out maybe not quite as many events this year, I'm hoping, just for her sake. I mean, I hope she plays every event and she's healthy, but I do want to see her stay healthy for the whole year. But so $480, Own comes out just slaying the competition. Violet Main takes second place, tied with Shelly May Lay. And in fourth place, Jennifer Jansen. Might as well talk about the whole field. There's only 4 of them, so congratulations. MP40. I don't normally talk about MP40. And then we talk about MP40. We say that a lot. Carlo Pelg. Carlo, for those of you that know, he's only 989 rated. Carlo was one of those up-and-coming kids years ago, along the same lines of Dion Arlen was Carlo Pelg, like the same time. And Carlo, I thought, was going to be like one of those next hot stars. And then he just sort of kind of faded, just out of the scene for the most part. He still plays, clearly, as he won the MP40, taking home $960. But his PDG number is 16824. So you sign up just a little bit after me, as I'm 14324. But congratulations to Carlo Pelg. I haven't seen that guy in probably 20 years. But I'm glad to see he's still out and about. So the 47th Annual Wintertime Open, that is our event. That is what we see. And we are going to move on. So congratulations to everybody who played in that particular event. We're going to go over to the Shelly Sharp Memorial. Now, there are some questions about the Shelly Sharp this year. Why is it being played later? Why isn't the footage out? Huh? Terry Miller, what have you been doing lately? Where is the footage? So the Shelly Sharp footage, Terry had a crew there. Terry was not there, as we know, because he was over in Asia, Southeast Asia. But he did have a crew there filming, so we will get to see the footage at some point. I don't know when that is. I don't know if that's going to be next week or in November. It could be Terry time. To be honest, I don't know. But we saw some phenomenal golf at the Shelly Sharp. Now, I heard some talk on social media about, like, this is the type of course that, everyone's shooting 1090 and 1100 rated rounds. Like, no, that's Fountain. Fountain's gone. We're not using Fountain here. This is Vista. Vista and only Vista. This is the Vista Pro Men XL. So not very long. It's 8,600 feet. Ricky Wysocki beating Anthony Barella by 2 strokes, taking home $1,555. Ricky shooting a 1036, a 1092, and then a 1098. Did the new discs affect him at all? Honestly, I'm going to take a drink to that one. Because Ricky just plays very well. I think Ricky's on another podcast right now talking about his bag, or just did. Which, honestly, to me, doesn't interest me at all. I'm interested in his new putter. Although I think it might be too deep for me. I don't love that deep of a putter, but we'll see. I'll probably pick one up, maybe 2, just to play around, put them in the backyard, toss them around when we're not going through this polar vortex. Woke up this morning and it was -3 degrees before the wind chill. -20 with the wind chill. I drove my daughter to school, and it's a 2-block walk. But one of those blocks, straight west, right into the headwind. So that is a long block to walk in a stiff headwind with a little girl. But anyway, Ricky Wysocki winning this over Anthony Barella. AB, second place, as we said, shooting 32. And then there was a little bit of a gap. 7 strokes behind AB is Adam Hammes, shooting 23. So you've got your top 3 touring guys who took the top 3. No shock there. In fact, they took him in order. Ricky, who's currently 1053 rated, AB 1040, and Adam Hammes 1032. In fourth place was Cody Wood, shooting 22, only 1 stroke behind Adam Hammes, so congratulations. And in fifth place, Drew Gibson. Drew Gibson crawling out of his little bitty retirement. As we know, he won't be playing a lot this year, as he's expecting a child, and so he's doing more media stuff this year. Although I don't think it's Disc Golf Pro Tour media, I think it's probably just YouTube media stuff. But anyway, Drew Gibson, 5th place. Congratulations, Drew. $625. 6th place, Jake Brown. 7th place, Connor Rock, another name everybody knows. 8th place, Kyle Kreikhaus. 9th place, Tristan Tanner and Parker Welk, both tied at that spot. Now, rolling down to FPO. FPO, Jen Allen shooting 19 under par. Katrina Allen shooting 15 under par. So round 1, Jen had Kat by 1 stroke. Second round, Jen opens up the lead. Makes it an 8-stroke lead after round 2. But final round, Jen Allen, 58, a 992 rated round. Right? Yeah, my eyes don't deceive me. I thought it was maybe 962 at first, but no, 982. And then Jen Allen only shoots a 958, so Kat comes back a few strokes. Still loses by 4, but this is Kat shaking off the rust. I got a chance to talk with Kat at the Memorial. We walked along probably 5 holes and just talked life. Didn't talk golf at all. Other than the one question I had was full tour, yes or no. She said yes. So I'm really excited. I think Kat's going to be a sleeper this year. Like, I think a lot of people are sleeping on her to play well because she's got the kid. But I think Austin is, like, taking care of your daughter during the events, and Kat's going to play. So if Kat can dedicate the practice time, look out. I truly think Kat's going to kind of shock some people this year. I would not be shocked if she won an event. I wouldn't put her at more than one event this year, probably. But Kat always comes out and surprises. 3rd place, Ashley Phelps. 4th place, Anna Stefanovic. And a little bit of an upset in MP40. Andrew Bohm? I'm going to go with Andrew Bohm. Bests Pete Ulibarri by a stroke. Pete is the hands-down favorite. He's the highest-rated player there. Anyone that was putting money down probably put it down on Pete. But Andrew with a nice couple rounds there. 1036 rated first round. He had Pete by 7 strokes after the first round, and Pete did his best to crawl back, but couldn't quite get close enough. Only got within 1 at the end. I don't know, maybe in the last round he had him at one point, but it's the total score that counts. So that's your Shelly Sharp. Like I said, you're going to start seeing that footage from Terry at some point in the future. I wish I knew when, but I really don't care. So, not going to lie. But we'll talk to Terry next week about that. And we'll see what is kind of happening with the Shelly Sharp footage. He's got to get all the footage, first of all. So it's all been recorded. I assume they're going to download it to a hard drive. They'll probably send him the hard drive. When he gets that hard drive, then you'll start editing. Maybe they were able to upload it via a cloud, but we're talking like hundreds of gigabytes of footage. So cloud stuff, not always the best for that. My guess is it's going to be some hard drives or some SD cards that are going to be shipped in the mail for that. That's your Shelly Sharp. Really the only events that we had going on this week. Those are the big ones that everybody, if you cared, you watched, or you found out. But at this point, everyone's kind of just chugging along. They're waiting for Olympus. The Supreme Flight Open is coming up. A little bit of bitterness from the San Francisco crew about this. The SFO has always been the purview of San Francisco, and now it's Supreme Flight. So I know there's some joking behind the jokes about Keith Murray. Sorry. Keith Murray is the tournament director for thing. Sean Jack. From Sean Jack, but I bet you there's a little bit of truth behind that. That he's a little, I wouldn't say upset, but just he wishes that the SFO wasn't the acronym that was used. So, you know? I'm looking over the board right now. Racist Johnny is like me. My beard game is pathetic too. Yeah. Are you guys looking at? Yeah, I didn't really shave. I didn't shave since Saturday. I think I shaved on Saturday, so it's been 3 days. Yeah, that's not much. It's like a bad shadow. Like bad lighting is what it looks like. That's what I do. You guys remember during the pandemic when I grew this out? It was bad. But I did it. My wife didn't love it. Can't say I loved it. It was bad all around. Maybe I'll go back and look at that 2020 year and laugh at myself at how bad my little chin beard was, because that's about all I got. That I could grow a moderate neck beard. Who wants a neck beard without your cheeks and stuff? I don't know. It's never been my thing. So, anyway, we're going to start talking about some other things going on in the world of disc golf. We're going to start with PDGA. And if you do a Google search for PDGA board minutes, you'll find out that on January 14th, there was a the board of directors monthly meeting minutes. And there's a few interesting things in here. I look at these every couple months. And it's beginning of the year, so I figured I'd take a look at it. There's some financial information. It says here, as of December 31st, the PDGA had total assets of $6,895,000 as compared to $8,388,000 as of the same time in 2023, representing a decrease of $1.4 million. Now, the balance sheet is just a snapshot of the PDGA's assets and liabilities at a single point in time, not spread over the course of the year. So what that means is that this is just, obviously, like I said, a snapshot. Anything. They could have spent a bunch of money on something right before this. Servers, acquisition, a tournament name. Not sure if I'm loving that. They don't get into much details on that, but I'll talk about it in a little bit. Other than that, you can talk. They kind of go through a lot of things. Human resources. There's been 2 new hires at the PDGA. I think we talked about. There's Zach Hyatt, who's been hired as a production manager on the product team. I'm sorry, a product manager on the product team. And Sarah Henry, who is going to be the project manager for the tech team. And that's the one I'm interested in. No offense, Zach. It's my nature. I'm a tech guy. She's kind of, I'm assuming, working closely with Dion to be a project manager. So I think Dion is going to kind of help point the direction at which the features and stats and things that they want to build, and Sarah will, I'm guessing, lead up those projects. Make sure timetables are being hit, budgets are being hit, all that other stuff. That's what project managers do. But so that's the one I'm really interested in, and I would love to, hopefully at some point, I don't know when I ever will, but I'd love to talk to Sarah about what their job and what she's going to be doing at the PDGA. So, other things on this particular board meeting, there was a note about some, if you scroll down, they talk about the majors. They talk about how, a couple things, that they don't know if IDGC is going to be ready for Champions Cup next year due to more issues with not the Beatles, but Hurricane Helene did a number on the IDGC. And that's impactful because it was announced that the PDGA has purchased the President's Cup. And you ask, how does that even make sense? Well, UC owns the rights to the name President's Cup and the event itself. not the style of event. Anyone can run a Ryder Cup event, but the event, which I'm assuming comes with the name recognition, probably graphics, probably some other things, assets that we don't know about. But the PDGA purchased that event from UC, which I think is kind of interesting. Like, did we need to do that? Couldn't we just couldn't we just come up with a different name than the President's Cup? And run one ourselves if we really wanted to? What I would be very interested, and I'm not questioning the PDGA, to be clear. I think if they made this purchase, there was a reason for it. I'm just curious as to what they got out of it other than the name and the recognition of that name. Because with something like this, it feels like if the PDGA is going to buy it, it probably means they're going to TD it as well. And when it goes to the Champions Cup this year in 2025, which it is doing, so we're going to see the President's Cup this year over in California. What are we getting from UC for that, other than the name? Couldn't the PDGA just do their own? Now, there might be some goodwill. I don't know what the purchase price was. It could have been $100. Could have been $1 million. I don't know. That's the one downside. Not one downside. There's lots of downsides. That's one of the downsides of the PDGA board minutes, is that there's not. I feel like we should have a little bit more transparency into some of the money spent at the PDGA. I've always said this. I think I don't want to question every single purchase. I don't care what they get a box of paper for. But these are some bigger assets that I hope we can look at the budget and see that. It's now, granted, it won't necessarily be in the meeting minutes, but a lot of times they don't break a lot of that stuff out in the budget. It's kind of clumped together under different sections. And that is one thing I would love to be more attuned to, is what the PDGA is spending and how they're spending. It is a membership organization. I think more transparency is usually better. It does open you up for critiques, whether you like them or not. But I do think these are things that the people should probably know. Most won't care. But I want to know that, that our money is being spent wisely, especially right now when the money isn't flowing in. Not that it should matter. We should know this all the time, but the money's not flowing in like it used to. So that was the other announcement, was that the President's Cup is now going to be rotating between the United States and Europe. So it's the United States in odd years and Europe in even years. So we're going to see this year at the Champions Cup. We're also going to see the President's Cup. Next year, probably during the European Open, we'll see the President's Cup and the European Open over in Europe. I like that. I honestly thought that was a decision that they made a decade ago, because I remember it being held at USDGC. I think I was there that year. I have to look at who won. And that was 2010. I know it was 2010. I just can't remember if that was the year I was there, because I worked with the Disc Golf Planet to help do the live production. I think that's the year that I tried to qualify for USDGC, and that didn't happen, clearly. But I thought the decision was made, or I heard rumblings of it, that that's what they wanted to do every 2 years or every year, flip-flop it back and forth. And then it never happened. I believe it just went to Europe and stayed there. Now, I could be imagining that, but I swear there was talks of that. And maybe those were behind-the-scenes talks from people, that they wanted to bounce back and forth between the two continents. But now we're getting that. The PDGA owns the event, so we're going to see odd years here in the U.S., even years over in Europe. And that's exciting. I mean, I've never really paid that much attention to the President's Cup, mainly because for the last decade plus, there's been like 2 close years. And other than that, it's usually a stomping by the U.S. So, I don't know. It just hasn't ever really piqued my interest. But we're getting more competitive. So I think that this will be good. And plus now we're going to have live coverage at all these events. Because if it's going to be held before majors, you know DGN's going to be covering it. So that will actually make it more interesting and probably make me more likely to watch it. Not going to lie. I'm just looking at the some of the board here. Ray says, never would have considered trademarking an event name. Makes sense. Yeah, Ray, that's what USDGC is. Innova, or I think Disc Golf USA, which is a subsidiary of Innova, I'm fairly certain, owns the name USDGC, period. I'm fairly certain they've trademarked it. You can't use it. PDGA can't have it. If they wanted to, move it or have a different major, they would have to call it something else. It could not be the United States Disc Golf Championships. Championship. Just not they can't do it. Which, I think, Ben, has always been a little burr under my seat that how some of those things are handled between those two. So, anyway, other than that, this board meeting talked a little bit about some TD training, membership report. We have currently 126,000 active members, 23,000 new members. That's a negative 10,500 growth. Not good. But again, we're leveling out. This is to be expected. There's a whole section here about the IDGC, about how they're working with the Army Corps of Engineers to, they're trying to work on a thing. They've got 2 logging companies that are going to be on site to assess the scope and work and then get a timeline. And then once that's completed, the Army Corps is going to contract a company to remove the tree. There's a whole thing, but it's definitely interesting. The only other thing that I found interesting, and again, because I'm a nerd, is the technology area that this year they have implemented, and this is, I think, in 2024, but they're talking about it now. They've finished up what they're calling auto scaling. So the way the system works is it makes, if you think about it, auto scaling. The more capacity that the sites need, PDGA Live, the more servers are handed to it automatically. So what we need right now in December is not going to be the same as what we need right now or what we need in the future in July. So you have to in the past, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, you kind of had to make a choice between, do you purchase all the capacity and keep it? And it all depends on how your site is built, how easily it is to develop that way. Well, I'm guessing the PDGA, that they're run on Drupal, which is kind of like a WordPress. At least the front end is. I'm assuming they have a custom backend for all PDGA Live stuff developed. But how easy that is to expand. Because if you think about it, you've got 50 events this week. In July, you're going to have 150 on a weekend. And everybody's using PDGA Live. Then you've got the DGBT going on a weekend when you've suddenly got 50,000 more people refreshing the page. All that is capacity. We've seen it not be handled well in the past. But with this thing they call auto scaling, it's going to help set capacities at the right level at all times. And they say it's a cost savings of whatever they were spending of 50% projected. And you won't know that. It's hard to say that for sure, because if disc golf hits another leap and bound, that's going to be more traffic. I'm assuming the 50% is projected based on last year's traffic. If the last year's traffic is similar to this year's traffic, you're going to save what they think is 50%. So, and it supports an increased use of the PDGA platform. So I'm assuming that's the website and PDGA Live. They've got something called release automation, which is easier to develop and publish changes. And they're working with their BI platform, which is called Business Intelligence. It more or less lets them get data, like up to the minute data. You've got different applications that allow you to pull different data from different locations. And these are things probably Statmando's helping with. Create forms, get them to your people, whether it's HR or accounting or whatever, and just it lets people be more agile. So those are the things I was interested. They have a whole list of other discs that were released in the 2026 Champions Cup location. It says here the board discussed the possibility that the IDGC may not be ready to be hosting Champions Cup based on additional damage caused by Hurricane Helene. An official decision to move the event has not been made. So it sounds like 2026, we still might not have it at the IDGC. Anyways, those are your PDGA minutes. Go check them out once a month, maybe once every other month. They put them out there. They're very interested, especially if you're into the PDGA, on things that you can glean from them. Speaking of the PDGA, we had our board president, Nate Heinold, do an AMA. It's an Ask Me Anything on Reddit. And I read it over briefly, not all of it. It was long. Nate answered a lot of questions. I thought he answered some questions very well. There were some yahoos out there, obviously, who main goal is to just attack. And Nate handled it as well as could be asked for from your board president. I don't think he didn't take any bait, so to speak. He threw a couple little jokes out there. But one of the things he addressed is one of the major criticisms and concerns of Nate Heinold getting all of the PDGA, not all, getting PDGA majors awarded to him. And I don't have the post up in front of me. You could probably dig it up on his AMA, but I thought he answered it very well. And it more or less comes down to he doesn't vote on that. The board doesn't vote on that. The PDGA staff votes on that, of which he has supposed no influence. And he said that, it's pretty well separated, separation of concerns. And there are times he's been the only bid. He's lost money on lots of majors. And that it's not always the easiest thing to do, which we're not shocked about. Running a huge event like that is not always very easy. But there were some couple other questions, some Ledgestone information, just more or less, it was an Ask Me Anything. He didn't answer everything. He didn't have to. It's not answer every question. It's an ask every question. But go out and check that out on the Reddits so that you can learn a little bit more about your board president. I like Nate in general. I think he's really good for our sport. We don't see eye to eye on everything. But ultimately, we agree on a lot of things, especially when it comes to disc golf. And I think if we had more people like him, our sport would be better off. So mark my words on that one. What else do we have going on here? Someone asked for some Terry travel stories. We won't get that tonight. He's not here. He is not here. Talking a little bit more about UC, we talked about him selling the President's Cup rights. There was some information that came out that hole 16 at the Beast is petitioning for an exemption on the hole. And hole 16, as we know, is the one where Anthony Barella had the blow up. It's the island hole. You throw the first shot to, the peninsula as close as you can get it. Then you chuck up onto the island and hope to get yourself a nice little 3 birdie. That's a par 4. 1, 2. Yeah, it's got to be a par 4. Hope to get yourself a 3. But if you don't make the island, you keep shooting, which does not work for PDGA. Not the rules, not the ratings. They're not built that way. So he's trying to fight for an exemption to put the old rule back in place. Do I think he's going to get it? Probably not. Do I hope he gets it? No. And I know I'm in the minority here. I'm 100% in the minority here. because everybody loves the potential for a blow-up hole. But it doesn't conform to our rules. And I have to stick to my guns and say that I want our biggest events to have consistent rules. And if those rules are not allowed at most events, then they should not be allowed at our biggest event, our biggest events, whether that's the European Open and Worlds or this year just Worlds. Is it a better hole? Arguably, maybe. More exciting. I'll give it that. There's more chance for an epic meltdown. Definitely that. But we all know USDGC has hole 17. It is, I don't say the sole reason, but it is a big reason as to why that's an XM. Should we have Worlds be an XM? Which means the ratings don't count? Would anybody care? If it were an XM major, or an X major, I would have less of an issue with it. But now you're telling people, including myself and everybody else, like, yeah, your Worlds rounds, they don't count. They don't count for anything. We're not going to count them into the ratings. You're not going to count them into anything. It's just a nice little, there's sprinkles on top that no one's ever going to look at. So, do we want that from our major? I don't know. Thankfully I'm not the one that has to decide. But I do like the rules. If we want to adjust the rules, that's one thing. If we want to make an exception for in the rules for majors to have one of these type of holes per course, however you want to phrase this, then by all means, let's do that. But I know the PDGA wants to avoid having something like this done at your local B tier or even the A tier. They don't want people unloading bags. It's bad for course flow. It's bad for player morale a lot of times. It brings in the chance for some, luck. I think there's a few reasons as to why this is bad. And so now you run into the question, the age-old question, should we have different rules for different events? Should the PDGA have a separate rule book for the DGPT and for majors that they do for most events? I don't like that idea, but I wouldn't say I'm a hard no. I'm like a stale no. Maybe still edible. But you're not going to like it. That's how I feel on the subject. So UC might get it. I'm sure the event will be run great. It's going to be an awesome event. It'll be an awesome hole no matter what. It's not going to be nearly as exciting, but it will keep the flow going. There won't be major backups, and it'll conform to our rules. So, cheers. In some stranger news, this week, what's not strange is Johnny McRae winning an event. What is strange is Johnny McRae getting hit in the face with a disc, I believe breaking his nose with like 3 holes to go. Johnny McRae finishing the event and winning the event. How badass is that? I don't know another way to put it. I don't even know what event that is. I was trying to find it. Was that the St. Petersburg event? Probably just do a search for John E. McRae PDGA. I'll pull it up here just a second so I can look at it. Recent events. What do we got here? Here we go. The Team Figgins Open 5 powered by Dynamic Discs. Is this the event that happened February 8th and 9th, which would have been 2 days ago? Johnny McRae, he was up by quite a few. Not going to lie. He won this event by 11 strokes. And his final round, he shot a 10.24. He started out with a 10.68. Yeah, God, my eyes are bad. And then round 2 at 9.53, so he had to come down. But then a 10.24. The dude won with a broken nose after taking a disc to the face. He has more medical issues on the course than any other pro. The man died on the course. Brought back to life. Yeah, I don't think he died on the course. I think he died at the hospital, but he had a heart attack at the course. But for story's sake, I'm going to say the man died at the course. And this time, the man's face was shattered. It was probably just a broken nose, but still. Just... 11 strokes. Nah, he couldn't have just skipped the last 2 holes. Just be like, I'm out. Peace. I'm still gonna win. Oh, I don't know what else to say other than Johnny McRae is maybe the baddest man in disc golf, and still the nicest guy. One of the nicest guys in disc golf. One of the most pleasurable to chat with. Which is funny because I didn't always think that. He had a reputation for many years of being kind of a grouch. And it has not much to do with the Paul Macbeth thing. I know that was a whole separate situation. Being on the media side we were not always Johnny's best friends. He was easily distracted years ago, and he's very serious about his golf, and he just wants to make sure that you are not making a noise in his field of vision when he's throwing. Or when he's getting ready to throw. He had a short fuse. He's much better now. Much better now. I got the Worlds at the IDGC and Fort Jackson? Is that the name of the course? I got to walk along with his card when he was playing very, very well. And we had a lot of laughs. And I was media at the time. So although I did throw somebody under the bus. Somebody was making some noise. And Johnny was not happy with it. And I went, and so God, I don't even remember who this was. I don't think it's a media crew that's even around anymore. But this guy was kind of stalking the woods. And he was making noise while Johnny was trying to throw. I'll give him that. And afterwards, I walked up to Johnny to get on his good side because I knew I was at one point going to be on that card. I was on that card that whole round doing filming, and I was going to be the thorn in his side at some point. But if I could get on his good side early, so it was like hole 2. I walked up to Johnny and I said, oh, "Hey," and he'd known me for a while. We'd been friendly. And I said, do you want me to take care of that guy? I'll make sure, And he was like, "Yeah, if you could." And so sure enough, I go to some PDGA person. I'm like, "Hey, can you get that guy?" And just, Johnny's not happy. And the rest of that round, all smiles, man. All smiles. I threw another media guy under the bus. I got on Johnny's good side, and it was one of my favorite rounds to film. Johnny had a ton of great stories. I think was it Matty O on that card too? I forget. But it was a lot of fun. I remember that card was a blast. And it just took me, being unscrupulous to get on Johnny's good side. But you also had to know I always shot from behind camera-wise with Johnny to make sure that I wasn't ever in his view, and you set up real early. So you set up and then you hope that you're in the right spot and you're just still as a, statue. But those are other times. So that's the Johnny McRae story, taking one to the face and still winning like a champ. And that guy's the ageless wonder. I don't know. I couldn't do it, probably. I'd be crying. They'd have to console me, probably. So many other things. Yeah, Mike says he did win by 9 strokes. Should a disc golfer be held liable for an injury like that in a tournament? Only if I think it was truly reckless. Like if someone was like just dicking around and threw a disc maybe the complete wrong direction or got upset and chucked a disc and like it bounced and hit someone in the face. But if it happened during regular play, no. You can't hold anybody liable for that. That's what our insurance is for. So hopefully, Johnny, hopefully the PDGA helped cover some of that with the PDGA insurance. And Ray says that the PDGA posted a list of 150 plus members receiving discipline, and Johnny and Eric Oakley were on the list. Yeah, we talked about real briefly about Eric Oakley a couple months ago. And Johnny, I'm assuming that is probably discipline based on their attitude on the course at some point. At least that's what I'd heard about Eric. And I'd guess Johnny too. I mean, as much as I haven't seen Johnny have any fits on the course, I know in the past it's happened. It's been a while, but sometimes demons come out. Especially if you're afraid you're going to get hit in the face. No, I think this happened back in, whatever happened, it was back in October or November, something like that. But yeah, that list is really long and interesting. And you can see there was like 150 people on it because I believe, and this is just a speculation on my part, there's a ton of TDs that owe the PDGA money. My guess is that they give them till the end of the year to pay up. Say, hey, you owe us X amount of money for running this event. You know, a couple bucks has to go to the PDGA per player. Pay us. And if you don't pay them by whatever, probably 6 months or a year, maybe not even that much. I don't know. But if you don't pay them an X amount of time, you're going to get put on that list. And so that's what a majority of those players, of those people were on that list. They were TDs. And there's different levels. It's in that list of, it doesn't give you the exact reason, but it gives you a category like D2, B1, C2. I think there were 3 players that had C1 violations, and that's not Circle 1. That is harassment, probably online harassment based on the names that I saw. There's, I think the TDs were D2. Was it D2? Yeah, I forget exactly. I looked at the list. But yeah, most of it is for probably overdue payment. That's why that list is really long. So, yeah, Johnny's just on probation. No ban. Same with Eric. Just a probation. It probably means that someone maybe lost their temper or got out of hand or something. Without knowing the details, I don't even like to speculate that much. But I just did. So, ultimately, we'll see what happens. Is it common for the PDGA to publicly disclose members with discipline actions against them? Yeah, they've done it for years. They should. You should. The TDs need to know. People need to know. Our membership needs to know why these people are. Maybe not the exact scenario, the exact. Because that's always a he said, she said kind of thing. But the generality of what happened and why these people are suspended. So yeah, it is regular that's been posted, but most of the time, again, it's names you don't know. It may be some local person who you have no clue who it is that played an event across the country. It's just that the beginning of the year, there was a huge number, and so with that huge number, there were some names on there that people knew. Other things on the board. Yeah, people need to check to make sure that the TD isn't screwing you over. And that's, I don't ever want to say a TD is screwing you over, because as we've seen with people, with things like, with J. Ray, he, contrary to popular belief, he wasn't trying to screw anybody over. His business just went down. His business just ran into the ground. Like he wasn't trying. He didn't He didn't steal from anybody to make money from them. He put that money back into his business, and his business just kept going downhill. What do you do? It sucks that the last event of the year, the Bud Hill one for him, is where it all came to a head. So, to me, there's I don't say a fine line. There's a clean line between someone stealing, which is an intentional act, and someone whose business just failed. It might hurt people, it might suck, but to me, that's what happened. So, but J Ray's on that list as well. So, and that's for not, that. It's funny because he paid all. I'm fairly certain he paid all his PDGA numbers, as far as I'm guessing, but maybe he didn't. Maybe there are events that he owed the PDGA for, which is why it's on there. But for the most part, everyone in the event was made whole, thanks to Tyler Searle. So, yeah, that could be for other events. I don't know. It might not be even for Bud Hill. So it's one of those things that you can speculate on. So, but I guess J Ray just found a new job. It was on social media, so congratulations. I haven't chatted with him in a while. Are you aware of new features or updates to DGN in 2025? No, I'm not. I think we talked last week that they're doing new graphics. There's some sparkling new graphics. They're going to more closely line up with the Jomez graphics. And I don't think necessarily in style, but just more placement. It's easier for the cameramen, so they can be consistent. But as far as new features, I haven't heard any. The broadcast will always, probably every year, they'll have something shiny and new and special. Hey, Yo Smokey, thanks for subscribing to the channel. You might see a new activation, we had like Birdie, where they brought out the Google Maps, and they put that into the thing. So you might see something like that show up. Like, oh, hey, we've got this live graph of birdies and bogeys on this hole, or something weird like that. But I don't think you're going to see, as far as like the DGN app, I don't think you're going to see too much change with that this year. Maybe a little bit better organization. I know that's something that they're always working on. But nothing new, nothing crazy, no new features that I was made aware of. And granted, I'm a step removed from the broadcast now. So maybe they come out and shock me as well. If there is anything, Mo, reach out. I'd be curious to know if you're doing anything special. Just because I'm curious and interested. I have some fun ideas. I'd like to do 1 or 2 watch parties this year. Like make them skip base watch parties, maybe for a major or something. But it doesn't require a lot of effort, but it requires a lot of effort if you want it to be good. Like I could just sit here and watch it with people, which might be fun. Maybe I was thinking throw a camera in my around the corner here to our finished basement, put it on the big TV, and then kind of hang out and watch with people. But maybe bring in a guest, something like that. But those are plans that we'll see if they come to fruition or not. Ray asks, same commentators or new faces? I don't think there's going to be anybody brand new, but I think you're going to see a little bit more of Des, Ian and Philo, Terry, Earhart, Charlie, maybe JK probably in there as well somewhere. Sexton, of course. But yeah, I don't think we're getting anybody new. Hokum, but I think she's done it before. I think Hokum has been on 1 or 2 broadcasts before. So overall, I don't believe we're getting anybody brand new. Just maybe a little bit more. They've spread it out a little bit as far as the people. They're trying new talent. Not new, but additional talent. Mike says, hey, JVD, can we talk about Skip Ace a little bit? I'm always interested to talk about that awesome application. The last week or so, I've put a lot of effort into it, behind the scenes stuff. Things that most people won't see. But yeah, that's one of those things. How many beers in will Doss be before the broadcast? He doesn't drink before the broadcast. He's He's pretty good that way, especially considering that most of those broadcasts for FPO are way early in the morning. If you'll ask Terry, I mean, you're talking like he's got to be up at like 4 a.m. to the DOSes by like 5 to be ready for check-in so they can start at 6 on the West Coast. If DOS is drinking that early, he either had a great night or he's got an early problem. So no, he doesn't do that. And then he's busy, honestly. He tends to do a lot of control room stuff behind the scenes that you guys just don't see. Making sure computers are running, cameras and stuff. So he's, I'm sure they have a drink or two after, but they're pretty good. They're pretty good that way. Mike asks about Skip Ace. I would love to join a league, but I'm not sure if anyone around me that I know that does one. Does anyone else on the Discord want to get a league going? There's a few Discords out there if you're part of any Discord that does leagues. Other than that, I think you can probably check the site. Am I on it right now? I am on it right now. Of course I am. Join league. Oh, it logged me out because I haven't been logged in a while. What? It's asking my password. What kind of crap site is this? Oh, I need to. Monitor's very far away. That's all I'll tell everybody. The monitor's fault. It's so far away. If you go to join league, there's a few leagues out there. This isn't. Looks like there's 2 redraft leagues available right now. A custom one that someone paid for, and just a standard redraft league. Not like a snake draft league where you keep the same people throughout the entire year. One that you get to pick roster, but you can just join any of those. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know if you're on Facebook. You can join Facebook. There's a Skip Ace Facebook page, which feels gross saying in general because I don't love Facebook, but we're all on it. And you could probably put a note out there, and I'm sure maybe someone would have a spot for you in their league, or you could probably get some people together. Or if you reach out to me privately, what I can do is be happy to maybe comp you a league if it's just you and you're looking for people, and then put it out there to join a private. Put it out there so people can join you. I'll comp you a league. I ain't that way. It'd be fun. But yeah, reach out to me either on the Discord or my email. I think you can find it. Stuff like that. I'd be happy to do something like that for you guys. Mike says, I may have had a beer at 7:30 a.m., but airport time doesn't count. That is true. Like, airport time is a whole nother. That's like people who work the graveyard. Can you blame them if after work they go to a bar, it's 8 a.m.? Like, because that's the middle of their day. Right after work like that? I mean, that's the same thing. It just doesn't count. It does not count. Ray says he'll join a league with you, Mike. He only did the SmashBox live one a few weeks ago. Yeah, there's a thing. How do we get a league going for SmashBox Discord? Yeah, go into the Discord and we'll get something set up. You can always, again, once you create it, if you don't have enough people, you make it a public league and it's out there for anybody to join. You set a draft time, and as the commissioner, you'll see everybody's email, so you can send them emails to make sure that they did it. I was fixing some bugs. We have what we call guillotine leagues now, which I don't think anybody is doing other than me to test one, where at the end of every event, it cuts somebody out of the league. Whoever had the worst score that week is gone. That's it. You just need to not be last. You get to keep playing. And then your roster, it's freed up so other people can bid on it or try to get it from you. So if, like, let's say you had Paul Macbeth, but then a bunch of other cruddy players, and I didn't get eliminated, but I want Paul Macbeth because he's better than my worst player, I'll try to get Paul Macbeth. Or maybe I don't want to waste my money and bid on Paul Macbeth. I want to wait for somebody else because my team is already good enough and I want to wait for a different player because I want to kind of sit and hang on. That's how guillotine leagues work. And so it's kind of a beta feature this year that I really want to see how it works and how well it does. And maybe maybe I need to do like, because it's weird. The issue I have with that type of league is that, let's say you get 12 people to play in your league. That's awesome. That's a great number, 10 to 12 people. That's only half the season. So maybe you make it a point to say, hey, we have, once you get the low score in for 2 weeks, make that a commissioner option. Or let's say you have 6 people in the league only, and you want to do it 3 times. So whoever has the lowest score 3 times in your league is ousted, and then it just kind of goes from there. That's not the way it's set up now. Right now, it's just one and done. But there's definitely opportunities there. That's the weird thing. Or guess what? You just start another guillotine league when yours is over. You start one after week 12, and you play it again. Like that's what I'd prefer you to do, because then it's another couple bucks in my pocket. But no, that's the one thing that we're able to, that I'm kind of experimenting with this year. For the most part, Skip Ace is pretty well set in stone as to how it's going to be. Everybody can pick their own events. They can create leagues. They can do whatever they need to. Everything I've been doing behind the scenes now is more bug related, and I'm actually already starting to work on next year because I've got a few ideas that I just want to push out. So, how many are needed for a league? 2 minimum. Maximum, I would say 10 to 12. The more people you have, the smaller you want your rosters to be. It's just kind of because you run out of players. There's about 100 players that are real solid. There's about 120 to 130, if you want to include your benches, that you could go through and you'd be like, I know that guy. Like the 88th pro. You're like, okay. Yeah, I could see drafting him. He's going to play in 3 DGBT events this year. That's why he's a bench player for you. You hope that you don't need to use him. So figure out how many players are in your league, and basically, I would say usually divide it by anywhere from 100 to 120. And that's how big your rosters total should be, is kind of what I figure. Just a rough estimate. But maybe you want to play a harder league, a deeper league. You want those guys that are going to be really tough, and people are going to have to struggle to get things. It all depends how you want to run your league. So, yeah, if you have any questions, Mike, just reach out on the Discord or reach out to me in private. Speaking of the Discord, what else is going on out there? Anything else? Oh yeah, Mike's already there. Mike's already there. Awesome. What else did we have going on for the PDGA or DGBT this week? I didn't see too much else. Wait, there was some PDGA news. I know there was, because I looked at it. They reintroduced the PDGA clubs, which is a club program. It's revamped a little bit. It used to be you could get your club, and a bunch of people could sign up for the PDGA membership. You get a discount. I think it was like a $5 discount on everybody's membership. So you got a cheaper membership. So they're reintroducing some things. So you might want to go ahead and look out at that. Other PDGA announcements. The European Disc Golf Festival registration is open. You can find an event for Women's Disc Golf Week that's coming up. And March 7th is USWDGC registration. That's your PDGA news and announcements. So, yeah. Really, everybody's just waiting for Florida. Everybody's waiting for Florida, guys. Now we're going to wander off course, as if we weren't off course before. Did anybody watch the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary? I did. Enjoyed it. One or two stinker skits, but for the most part, it was really good. I grew up on. I love Saturday Night Live. I grew up on it. I remember Every Saturday night, I would stay up late, no matter how old I was, and watch Saturday Night Live. I remember watching. I was talking to my son about this because he's never. I don't think he's ever watched Saturday Night Live. He's 15, never watched it. He's an early to bed kind of kid. If he's not in bed by 9:30, he's wrecked for the next day. And he's 15. He's not one of these like stay out late kind of kids. He gets frustrated when his friends stay over too late. He's the opposite of what I was growing up. But we made him stay up late to watch the Saturday Night Live skit rather than playing Catan that night. And he was laughing, and these are things that are new to him. And I just remember telling him, I'm like, I remember watching the Sinead O'Connor thing live because they had Miley Cyrus come on and do Nothing Compares to You, and he had asked, he's like, well, why this song? Because he knew it wasn't a Miley Cyrus song. He recognized the song, and I had to explain to him the situation as to what happened and why it was such a big deal and this and that, and trying to kind of explain some significance to him. But I remember thinking, like, the different Saturday Night Live skits that I grew up with, like everything from Wayne's World to, Chopping Broccoli, just watching those things live. And my favorite skit of all time, the one I probably laughed the hardest at, is the It's a Wonderful Life skit with John Lovitz and Dana Carvey as Dana Carvey as Jimmy Stewart. Again, it was a Christmas special. I remember watching that, and to this day I still laugh so hard, but laughing to tears. That might be my favorite skit of all time. Just the way he throws Old Man Potter's body around out of the wheelchair, and they go to get the torches after he remembers where the $8,000 was. And again, this is, Saturday Night Live was a big cultural touchstone for me. I've always enjoyed it. There's been some weak seasons, some of the Trump years were not great. I'm hoping they kind of avoid some of that. It got even for my tastes, it got a little bit too political. Usually for the monologues, not the monologue, the cold open. We can step away from that. Not everything has to revolve around politics, but in general, everybody has their own Saturday Night Live crew, like who you grew up with. And for me, it was Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, like that, Dennis Miller. Like just that crew was my Saturday Night Live. Like that was the crew. Like I got into it. Gosh, my earliest memories are like the Joe Piscopo, but that's early 80s. I was real little then, and I don't remember much. But those Dana Carvey, Mike Myers years, those were mine. Like Sprockets and Wayne's World and Coffee Talk. Those are the ones that really struck a nerve with me, and I still laugh at them to this day. So it was good to see a bunch of people get together and celebrate that. Adam Sandler was hilarious. Phil Hartman was in some of those seasons too that I absolutely love. Phil Hartman was one of the funniest people ever to live. But it's Eddie Murphy. This does I didn't realize how good of an impression of Tracy Morgan that Eddie Murphy does, because that skit, the Black Jeopardy, was hilarious. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Mike Thomas says the Steve Martin Open was good. It was. Yeah, the Adam Sandler thing was awesome as well, his song. 90s SNL was pretty much everything. I stopped watching in the late 90s because I went to college, and Saturday night was not what we were doing. Saturday Night Live. We were doing other things Saturday nights. A little bit more debaucherous than watching a comedy show. But yeah. Mike says, I swear I saw that Steve announced a new president of the DGPT. Yeah, we talked about this last week. DePhilip? I'm drawing a blank on his name. Yeah, he's the new president of the DGPT. Jeff is still CEO, but he's president. He's going to be handling uh, sponsor relationships and organization, and giving Jeff a chance to kind of spread his wings to do some other things. So, Ray asked, how's your son's motor vehicle skills developing? How much did your insurance increase? Ugh, insurance. I was ignorant, and the minute he got his temps, I called I went on to the online insurance company. I'd have to look at how much it went up, because it did go up. It was like $300, $400 every 6 months or something. I'd have to look for sure. I don't think it was $100 a month, but maybe it was. His skills are all right. They're getting better. He's a nervous Nelly behind the wheel. He doesn't want to drive, which is part of it. Not that he doesn't like. I'll say it. He doesn't like to drive, but he doesn't really want to drive, which to me shocks me and boggles me. I couldn't imagine. Then again, I lived kind of on the outskirts of town, so if I wanted to do anything, it had to be in a car, because a bike ride would be 20 minutes just to get to the edge of town. All right, probably 10 minutes to get to the edge of town, and even then, everything wasn't at the edge of town. It would have been another 25 minutes of biking to get wherever I was going in Appleton. I was on the far outskirts of it. So to me, a license was freedom. A license was getting out of the house. He doesn't need that, so I can understand. But it's better. It's definitely better. I had him drive to his school, which is about a 10-minute drive from here. Took the back roads, and then I made him practice parking, like between the yellow lines, learning how to turn, and then I had him drive all the way down the school parking lot, which is a good, probably football field and a half. Then I made him drive it backwards, because he still, that makes sense, gets instinctually confused as to which way to turn the wheel to back up. Whereas if it's second nature to most of us now that we've been driving, but he drives only every couple days, so he still has to think about it. And so I wanted him to just drive backwards. I'm like, cool, just throw your arm on the seat next to you, turn your head, don't use the mirrors, and drive. Just back it up. And, we did that. It was the weekend, so the parking lot was empty, and he's getting better. Definitely getting better. He hasn't hit anything, since he drove the first time, which is great. Team Court says the OG crew was his. Yeah, that's a little 75 to 78, 79. That's well before my time, Tim. Sorry. I've seen most of those episodes, but I can't say that. That's some classic skits there. Celebrity Jeopardy with Will Ferrell, R.I.P. Norm Macdonald. Yeah, they talked about the best weekend update anchors. And I thought one of the funniest jokes of the whole night was when Alec Baldwin was introducing the fake commercials that they've always done, which are almost always hilarious. And he made a joke. It was sponsored by After Update, it cures all of the skits after update, cure insomnia. And I laughed out loud because my wife and I, that's kind of our thing. We stay up until we watch Weekend Update, and then we start getting ready for bed. Brush our teeth. We'll still watch, but brush our teeth, get ready. There's usually 40 minutes left. And there's always a musical guest, which, you can skip those 8 minutes most of the time. At least I can now, because most of the musical guests these days are not the genre I listen to. Or not even the genre, are the age that I listen to. They're not bringing in Pearl Jam anymore. So I don't tend to watch the musical guests with as much interest. But there's usually 2 or 3 skits left, and some of those are funny. Mike says, oof, I remember insurance when I was 18, $700 every 6 months for liability. Yeah, it's expensive. Damn insurance. I've got a friend of mine from over by you and Terry who keeps trying to get me to move over there. Keeps offering me jobs. Well, it's nice to be offered a job. It's cold as hell over here, but sell us living near Milwaukee. What is it's funny, I love the city of Milwaukee. I truly do. But I think it's a hard sell. Because there's some really, really great things about Milwaukee. Great sports scene, Great bar scene. If you're younger, there's ample things to do between music, sports, nightlife, restaurants. Like Milwaukee's popping. It truly is. There was never a night that we didn't have something to do. It gets to be when you're in your 30s that, or maybe not even your 30s. Maybe once you have kids, that things kind of change, and at that point, like any major city, the MPS schools aren't great. There's like a handful of awesome MPS schools, like top tier schools, and then there's a bunch of other schools like that aren't good. So you move to the burbs, move to the suburbs, like I did, or like Terry did, and you get out there and you have you do that. I told my family, because when we were living in Milwaukee up until a couple years ago, now I'm just north of Milwaukee. I'm in a burb, like literally like 8 minutes from downtown. But I was going to pay for private school for my kid if we didn't move, and that would have been very expensive. I don't know, would have been more expensive to pay for private school and not move, or move and then get a good suburb school. I don't know. I don't want to do those numbers, but either way, it would have been expensive. Either way, it is expensive. But Milwaukee is great. I mean, the summers here are phenomenal. You've got the lakefront, you've got the arts, a couple of really great museums, Discovery World, the Calatrava, the Milwaukee City Museum is actually, it's being moved, so I don't know what it's going to be like after next year. But yeah, there's just a lot to do here, especially if you're young. I don't know if I'd have as much interest if I was under, how I would feel if I was younger than like 18 or 19. And even from 19 to 21, like most big cities, what is there to do other than concerts, maybe some sports? There's not much of a nightlife for kids, but is there anywhere? So yeah, it's the summers are great. I'm not gonna lie, the summers are great. Traffic isn't too bad. There's always ways to get around. The buses are pretty decent. The parks are great. The courses, I mean, you want to talk courses? We got a crap ton of courses within 20 to 25 minutes of Milwaukee. Like 15 courses within, I would say, 20 minutes of any direction in Milwaukee. It's pretty great. So that would be the selling point of Milwaukee. He says he thinks the job would be in Waukesha. Waukesha is west of Milwaukee. It's kind of near where Terry lives. Terry lives in Pewaukee. You have to make sure to learn all of the languages, like Oconomowoc, all of the Native American city names that we have. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things in Waukesha. No, there's not. Waukesha's a burb. It's even like one of the lame burbs, if you ask me. But I mean, it's not far from Milwaukee. So and you have to make sure to learn how to pronounce it like I do. Milwaukee. There's no L. Even though it's spelled with an L, nobody pronounces it. No one says Milwaukee. It's Milwaukee. But maybe that's just the Midwestern in me. Skipping syllables. Ray says, just how scared of AI should we be? I've been talking to Google Gemini, and I have been seriously amazed. It's almost like having the smartest, most non-judgmental friend ever. Yeah. How scared of it should we be? Not very scared. It's going to eliminate jobs. It's going to eliminate a lot of my type of job. It scares me for my kids in that, like my son who wants to be an engineer. Is there going to be engineering jobs? Is it going to start doing design? You start pumping in a bunch of requirements and it'll spit out something 10 times faster than a human could, or maybe 100 or 1,000 times faster. Maybe. I think it's going to take a lot of low level programming jobs away. It's going to take a lot of data entry away. I think it's going to take a lot of those white collar jobs away. I think it's going to be great in a lot of aspects. I mean, I look forward to the day when we have AI doctors that just have constant access to my secure access to my medical history, so that if anything weird comes up, like, oh, I got this weird red rash or something weird, or all my toenails fell off or something, that you can just, you can go through and search and pump in it'll have access to your medical data, or you can throw MRI scans in it or whatever you want to do, and it has access to, just tons and thousands of millions of people's data, so it can go through faster than a doctor. And it will have all the answers. And then you just go to a doctor it says, hey, this is what I need. And they look at it and they're like, yep, that's right. Because you don't want to eliminate doctors. You just want to actually have time with doctors. Because most of the time you go through 7 different people to get, a specialist, or you get like 6 minutes with the doctor where they, look in your ear and they look in your mouth and they go, yeah, all right, you're good. And, it's kind of how I felt when I screwed up my back, is that I talked to everybody but the doctor. The doctor came in, did like 3 things for me, like had me like put my arms out and twist my wrists, and he checked my back, and then he was like, okay, yeah, go here. Go do this. Go get this MRI. It's like, cool. I've been here for 2 hours and this is what I get. I think there's a lot of efficiencies it's going to do. It's going to put, it's not going to put artists out of business by any means. I think that's a good, safe bet. It's going to be able to recreate things. It's going to make simple things accessible to the average person. Like, oh, give me a simple logo for my homeowners association, and it's going to pop up some cheesy logo, and at some point you're going to be able to customize it and iterate on it better than you can now. Because right now it's just kind of, usually those images just recreate from scratch every time. They don't really iterate so much, but it'll get better. But it's not going to put real artists out of business. You'll be able to mimic some artistry, but real creativity is going to be very difficult for a computer. I wonder if we're going to see a resurgence, or even a more value in blue collar jobs, things like mechanics and plumbers and construction and things like that. Things that, like, just, it'll take decades for robots and AI to recreate that stuff. Just going to, that, again, the things that are going to be easiest to eliminate are going to be paper pushing jobs. Kind of like what I do. I'm an IT person. And if someone comes and says, hey, my application's broken, what do I need to fix it? There's an AI probably can get you most of the way there. I'm not so worried about my job, but things like my job. The smartest people are going to learn how to use AI with their jobs first before it replaces them. I think we got a little bit of time before that happens. So, but overall, I'm not really scared of AI. I think that it's good. I did make a really smart investment. I neglected getting in on NVIDIA way early, like a week and a half ago. It took like a 10 or 15 or 20% dip. So it went from like $100, $120 a share, $140 a share down to like $120, I think. And then I put a bunch of money in when I saw it dip. And there was a lot of people who are like, oh, is it going to come back? Is it going to come back? And I kind of thought in my head, I'm like, yeah, it's going to come back. I didn't know for sure, but it came back. So I made a quick 15% on that, which I was pretty happy about. Pretty happy about that. Because that's not going anywhere. I would still invest in that if you got a couple grand, throw it in NVIDIA, man. I think they're just, these machines we're not going to use them any less. That's for sure. I used it all the time. I'm using it, not at this exact minute, but with Skipbase, I used it extensively over the last year to help develop new features. You just pump in a bunch of information and it gives you a really good solution that's 90% of the way there. And so you have 10% that you need to kind of just like, oh, no, I need to do this or change this, or it gave me this wrong answer. But I'm using it to help me create, hopefully, some sort of app for Skipbase. So it's a mobile app. Because I don't know anything about mobile development, language, or anything. I know a little bit about web development. I don't know anything about mobile development. So I'm working on doing that now, actually. I just got it, so it's got a username and password page. It's like the very front page when you go to Skipbase. I kind of have that recreated now where it can actually go in and authenticate. It says, oh, yep, you are who you say you are. And that's it. Then it goes to a blank page. Can't do anything else yet. But that's step one. Step one of 1,000. And if I can just slowly build features in throughout this year, that's my kind of goal for next year, is to have an app that I develop. And previous to that, I couldn't afford it because an app builder to build an app like that would be tens of thousands of dollars. Now, a Yahoo who knows a little bit about programming like me can do it. So Ray asks, how about DeepSeek? Can America even compete with a China-like model of government-owned businesses? I mean, it's just like anything else probably from China. They can do it cheaper because they have more labor, and they can force their labor to be cheaper. And I think, here's one thing I would not do. I would not invest in a company because of AI. Meta, Twitter, OpenAI. I think that the models are going to be so close that there's not going to be a leader. OpenAI has the name behind it right now. Like everybody knows ChatGPT. They just do. So they've got a head start. And their models are probably better than everybody else's a little bit. But like you said, DeepSeek came out and was like, hey, we can be almost as good at 90% of the stuff and a little bit better at some things. And that's actually when the NVIDIA stock dropped, when DeepSeek announced their thing, because they were able to do a lot of what ChatGPT did at a cheaper rate. But the way someone laid it out that I believed in, they said, just when Edison came out with a cheaper light bulb, did we say, oh, there goes light bulbs? Or now do you think like, oh no, we're just gonna use a whole bunch more electricity? And that's what the NVIDIA chips are. They're the quote unquote electricity in the background of these things. They're what make them run. So the cheaper they get, the more people will use them, the more that they will have them, the more that there will be. And right now, NVIDIA has a lock on these chips. That's not to say it's always going to be that way, but so that's why I invested in it. So I took money out of other things and put it in there. So it was fun. But yeah, China's going to come out with, they got a bunch of smart people there. You know, a bunch of smart engineers and physicists and whatever else needs to build these tools. So, you know, whenever OpenAI in the next couple of weeks releases their 4.5 model, which they say they're going to, I guarantee you within probably 2 to 3 weeks, there's another company that comes out and says, hey, we can do something very similar. It just takes one company to kind of say, hey, this is how we do it, and everybody else does it. So, and Tim Court says AI in Photoshop has some really useful tools. Crop wider canvases. You can like fill in if you're not good with some of these tools. It's like, oh gosh, this idiot in the background, I just want to get rid of him, and you square him off and you hit fill or whatever, and it just goes away. So, hold on 1 minute. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. A little bit of a sneeze. Yeah, I mean, again, AI is going to be the future. I don't know how we're going to integrate it into disc golf. I'm trying to think about that. Obviously, with fantasy, I can do it, but that's more programming. So I don't know what AI is going to help us with disc golf. I could see an AI program that evaluates form. I've thought about that. I'm sure other people have, and I think it's probably already out there. I'm sure that some of these disc tech companies are doing that. Tech Disc, that's the one. But right now, it's not cheap. So, Web Warren says I got lucky and bought Palantir. I forget how to pronounce that. Very early. I wish. I bought Amazon very early. I bought Amazon at like $30 a share. I bought Tesla at like $40 a share. I wish I'd bought more. I bought a lot of things a long time ago when I was broke. And I only buy like 5 shares. Like, oh, I'm going to put 5 shares in, Amazon, and and then it builds, and you're like, God, I wish I would have. Man, if only I'd been smart and I would have put more in. Well, back then I didn't have all the money to do that. It was like what I had extra. That was kind of like my little play money investments where it's like, oh, cool. For the last 6 months, I have $1,000 I can invest in something. Where do I put it in? And I put into a lot of tech stocks because that's what I knew. And that was good because it just kind of went up. But not like Ricky's Bitcoin. It ain't that good. But Ray says, have you seen the Chinese electric vehicles from BYD? It's a shame that we can't get their fully autonomous cars for less than 10K. Yeah. I mean, I understand. I would hate to put, I understand why we're not bringing BYD in. We're getting into politics here. Sorry. Kind of. Because it would hurt the American auto industry. But I've seen some of them and they look good. They look cool. I'd love to have them here. Like, I think it'd be cool to have another option like that because honestly, that's what I'm looking for in a vehicle. I want an electric car. I don't need it to go 300 miles. I need it to go about 150 to 180 because most of the time I don't travel. Like, we have a car that we have a gas powered car that goes as far as I want it to go on gas. My electric car is it's a city mobile. So give me something kind of small like my Honda Fit, make it electric, kind of like a Leaf. I have been looking at the Ioniq 5s, which are a little bit bigger from Hyundai. They look real nice. That might be my next vehicle. I am very, very, very glad I never got a Tesla. I wanted one for a long time, for a decade. At one point, I had almost enough Tesla stock to buy a Tesla because I bought, again, real early into that. And that was one I think I bought like 20 shares a decade plus ago. And then it builds up and it splits and comes down. It builds up and splits. I had like 80 shares at $350 a piece or something. So it was a lot of cash at one point. I ended up selling it. I'm glad I never bought one now because now wouldn't be my style anymore. Let me put it that way. What other questions do we have in the chat? What's your Bitcoin looking like? I don't know. What's Bitcoin price at? I don't ever look at it unless somebody asks me here. Like I said, I'm not. Bitcoin price is at 95. It's dipped down quite a bit. Because at its peak, it was sitting at like 100,000. Now it's down to 95. So I've about a quarter Bitcoin hanging out. Like I said, I bought it for like $500 or $1,000 or something. So diversify. That's what I tell my son. It's like, invest in what you know, diversify. You don't have to spend a lot. If you get it real early, eventually it'll build up. Just make sure you invest. So, anything else on the board? Megan says, my sister has an Ioniq 5 and they love it. They have a gray one. Has a DeLorean shape. Yeah, it kind of does a little bit. I mean, it looks like a hatchback with a little bit like a DeLorean. I've just heard one or two bad things about it as far as like the battery. Like there's an issue with something called the ICU or the ICCU. Some sort of battery issue. But overall, I really like them. And so I don't need a new vehicle because the Honda Fit is going strong as long as my son doesn't destroy it. But we'll see how it feels in like 6 to 8 months when he has a license and he wants to drive around, and maybe I want to drive around, or I want to go on I want to go a disc golf tournament for a night or two, and then he wants a car, and we'll see what happens. But that's where I'm leaning right now. That's the car I'm leaning at, is the Ioniq 5. But by the time I decide, there might be something else out there that I like. So Ray says the interior and quality just seems so cheap. And the Ioniq 5, it does? I don't know. Yeah. I haven't been inside of one. I've just seen it. So I could change my mind. I could get into it, not fit into it. Surprisingly, I fit really well into my Honda Fit. But I could get into this Ioniq 5 and like the ceiling could be right up my melon, and I'm looking at the top of the windshield. Unless I go lowrider and put the seat way back, which I've had to do in some rental vehicles, where it looks like my car should be hopping because my front seat is leaned back so much. It's a real thing I have to do when you're 6'6". My son's taller. Even him, the Honda Fit is pushing it. It's pushing it. I watch him get in, and I think when I get in, I say, do I look that awkward when I get in and out? I don't think I do, but I'm also used to it. He gets in, and he's all arms and legs and just looks gangly until he's in and driving. Then it's fine. So. Oh, Ray says on the Teslas that the interior is in quality just seems so cheap. Yeah, I've ridden in a few Teslas. It seemed all right. I noticed, I've seen and heard some of the exterior build quality isn't necessarily as precision as most other vehicles, but yeah. So anyway, that's where I'm leaning for vehicles right now. So I'm not getting a Ferrari or a McLaren or a Maserati anytime soon. Can't afford that. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. Anything else on the board that we need to talk about? I know we've kind of melded into the after show a little bit, and that's okay because that's what happens when you have a solo show. I'm a little disappointed. My wife the other day asked me, she's like, "Hey, I've got to go to a conference at Wisconsin Dells, which is like a giant indoor water park in May. You want to go? Make a family thing of it." Like, "Ooh, that sounds like fun." This was like 3 days ago. She asked me. It's like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Take the kids out of school on like a Friday and go have some fun at a water park." And then today, there was a concert announced that I was excited for. It was a Jimmy Eat World concert. One of my favorite bands because I'm of that era. Nothing wrong with that, people. They put out some great albums. And it was May 9th. I was like, "Oh, hey, that sounds great." And I look at the calendar, and it's right in the middle of when she looks at scheduling that. So I might end up missing that. The concert, not the vacation. We'll see. I will have to figure out what the times are that we're looking at going. So, things you do for family. Tim Court says that the Cybertruck looks like a Cyber Pinto. Yeah, there's been some really cool looking ones that people have repainted, but just the actual off the line gray. Oh God, is that an ugly car? Oh. And I don't care about aesthetics. Like I said, I drive a Ford or a Honda Fit. Like it's literally rusting in spots, and the back hatchback where I leaned on it one like 5 or 7 years ago, and it popped in and it cracked the paint. Like, and I don't wash it nearly as much as I should, especially in the winter when it's all salty. I should wash it more, but it looks like, I'm not one for car aesthetics. I never have been. I don't care. I'm not a car guy, but which would kill my in-laws to say out loud, because they are car people. But yeah, those things are ugly as sin. Ugly as sin. Ugh, Cybertrucks. I shake my head when I drive past one. Like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Still in the middle of building my laundry room. I built all the carcasses for the cabinets outside of my garage. My garage isn't insulated. It's just literally like concrete block. So right now it gets really cold and I don't really want to work out there because the little tiny space heater I have doesn't do anything for me. But I've got all the carcasses built. I built the drawers for the cabinets. I've got some side panels that I bought. Those are in the garage. I got half of them cut. I have to cut the other half hopefully this weekend. What's the weather supposed to be like this weekend, folks? What are we looking at? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Mid-20s. Ooh, even 36 on Sunday. That means I'll be out in the garage working. But yeah, so I'm excited. The cabinet build is coming along great. I've never built cabinets before, but I thought, why not? Why can't I do it? And I can do it. Not ideal. There are some flaws that I found that I messed up on. I think I can hide most of them. And one of the drawers doesn't shut great. Like it shuts like it's supposed to be like a slow close, and it gets to close and it's supposed to kind of slowly close all the way. It gets to that slow close stop, and then it just kind of hangs out there. You got to give it a little push. And I'm assuming it's because either I built the actual drawer just slightly out of square, because it seems to fit in there just fine, or maybe the cabinet isn't quite perfectly level and that it doesn't want to suck it in. Because it's in our laundry room, and the floor of the laundry room slopes to the center where there's a drain. And so it was really hard balancing these things. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's nice to build something. I like to build things. So, are there any indoor trampoline parks in Milwaukee? Yeah, we have like 24 in Columbia. Yeah, there's a half dozen of them for the kids. Yeah, every once in a while, like my daughter gets invited to one for like a party or something. So I haven't been to one in a while, but yep, they're like the massive, like bouncy, trampoline park, bouncy house / arcade / rock climbing kind of places. Yeah, They're all over here. We got a few of them. The liability, maintenance, and cleaning of those seems cumbersome. Assuming you do all those things, yeah, I bet it would be. Yeah. I'm just happy it stopped snowing. It was, like I said, it was really cold and snow blowing. I don't mind snow blowing, but snow blowing in like heavy wind and cold is not fun. If you don't get at it pretty quick, it freezes there. I've got a patch in my driveway where my car was that I was too lazy to I had my car in a nice spot. I didn't move it quite enough, and now there's a giant ice chunk kind of right at the front of my driveway, and I could probably chip it away or use a shovel and get rid of it, but I could just run it over with my car repeatedly until it goes away, which is my plan. So. Ras, did you teach carpentry yourself from practice, or did you have a mentor? No, just myself, just YouTube. Honestly, I mean, the hardest part for me is, well, there's two hard parts. One, getting the plywood, because I don't have a truck, so I have to rent a truck to get plywood. And then you go to like Menards and Home Depot, and they got crap plywood. So I go to a place called Alpine Plywood, which is on the other side of town, which has phenomenal selection of plywood at good prices. But the other day, when I needed to get the panels, the side panels, so the way I built them is they're going to have these nice side panels so you can't see any of the screws or any of the joints. It's going to look really sleek. And so I went to Home Depot to rent a truck, because it was like 3 miles from Alpine Plywood. And I get out of my car when I pull in the driveway, and I hear this loud, annoying buzz. I'm looking around, almost sounds like a car alarm. I'm looking around and I can't find it. That's weird. I'm like, oh, but there's the trucks and the vans I can rent. So the closer I get to them, the louder the buzz is getting. I'm like, Then I get to the truck and I find out it's coming from the truck. Coming from the engine of the truck. The truck is just sitting there in park, like it does. No keys in it, nothing. But it's buzzing really loud. So I wander into Home Depot. I say, hey, can I rent a vehicle? Like maybe one of the vans, not the truck. And the guy's like, both of our vans are down. Truck's the only thing that's available. I said, oh, you mean the truck that's like loudly buzzing? And the kid, probably like 20 or 21, goes, huh? Still? And he goes wandering outside. And I follow him. And I'm like, yeah, I heard it buzzing. I thought it was an alarm at first, and he put it, so he gets in and he turns on the vehicle. As long as it's in park, it's making this awful, awful buzzing noise. It's not an alarm, but it's something coming from the engine. It's like a whine almost. Really, again, it was even happening when the car was off. But when he puts it into drive, it goes away. When he puts it in reverse, it goes away. When it's in neutral, it's not there. It's only when it's in park. And then he said he puts it in park and there's some error on the dashboard about the transmission. And then he looks at me and he goes, huh, I guess we don't have any vehicles for you today. And I was like, oh, God, that means I have to go to a U-Haul. So I went to a U-Haul and I paid like an extra $25 than the $25 Home Depot thing. But I had to get the plywood, bring it here. And the hardest part for me, so you get getting the plywood here, but making a really long cut along the plywood is the hardest part, because plywood's heavy and I've got a nice table saw, but not a really nice one where I can put a whole piece of plywood on it. So I kind of have to break it down first. And so that's a pain, is to get a straight edge that I can use to reference other edges. And I noticed that some of my cabinets weren't perfectly square. So, but yeah, there's a ton of tutorials on YouTube. I have a hair in my face. I keep picking at it. There it is. Oh, I nailed it. It was tickling my eye and my nose and all morning or all show. But yeah, that's the hardest part. Just going on YouTube and watching people build a cabinet. It's a box. You need 4 square sides. You basically need something to hold them together. I've got a nail gun, and you nail them together, and then you square it up, and then you screw it together. You got yourself a box. And the one thing I really, really hate, and for all the carpenters out there, God bless you, I wish I had a tool that did edge banding, because obviously with plywood, you don't want to see the plywood edges. So I've been edge banding with an iron and some iron on wood to make it look like a solid piece of wood. Ugh. I'm not good at it. I'm impatient. And when I try to clean up the edges, it tears out and it takes forever. Each side takes like 3 to 4 minutes. which doesn't sound like a lot until you realize you have to do 65 sides. You're like, oh my God, this is going to take me 3.5 hours of just sitting here with an iron, ironing on this wood. And so I hate it. It's not good. It's not fun. But I have to do it. I only have to do a few more pieces yet. Just because the doors, I'm just going to measure and order online. I'm not going to sit and cut doors, square doors, and edge band 4 sides of a door. It's just not going to happen. So instead, I'm just going to pay for someone to order. I'm just going to order doors and the right size and have them delivered and then put them on. So, but no, I've taught myself kind of carpentry. I always enjoy building things with my hands, and I do like to do that kind of stuff. I want to build a table next. We've got this tiny little table that we use down here for Catan, for gaming. And it works. It's literally like the one thing my wife has let me kept for my apartment for the last, probably the only thing I have left. And maybe I've got a poster or two that are hiding behind this curtain, but they're not even put up. She hates this table. She's hated it since I had it. And it was like in our basement for many years. And then finally it came down to this basement, but we just don't have anything to replace it. And there's no need to. But it's just a hair small for 3 or 4 people to get around to play Catan. So I want to build a slightly bigger gaming table. Maybe have it kind of a nice inset, have a spot for cups and things like that. So that might be a project for next year. I built my arcade cabinet, which I think I could do a much better job now. So it's about having the right tools, a lot of it. So, all right, what are we talking about on the board now that I've rattled off about carpentry? Tim says you can learn anything on YouTube. Yeah, if there's something you want to know how to do, you just YouTube it. Someone will teach you. Yeah, just you don't have to just don't cut off a finger. What is typically your bottom limit for playing disc golf in the winter? Mine is upper 30s, about 40. For me, how cold can it be? I don't mind playing in cold weather. Terry would laugh at me because I'm notorious for not wanting to play in winter. But I will. If there's a group of guys going out and it's to a close by course, I don't mind going out to play in the winter. It's the wind in the winter. I don't mind the wind in the summer, clearly. Wind in winter, it's not my thing. No, thank you. We've told this story before, but it was the Crack Plastic Classic. We used to always go over to Michigan to play this event on early February. It's actually probably coming up. I wonder if it's still going on. Larry LeBond, LLK Zoo, used to always host this event. It was in Climax, Michigan. I just passed. It was a fun event, but there was one year we went, and it was cold and windy. I think there was like 35-mile-an-hour winds, and it was like -2 degrees without the wind. I think the wind chills put it down at like -20 or -30 that day. It was the most extreme golf I've ever played. It was just survival golf, is honestly what it was. Half the people didn't show up to the tournament that morning because they knew you pre-regged back then. Of course, you sent in your check, but like half the people didn't show up. But we had driven from Wisconsin, which it was like a 4-hour drive. There was 4 or 5 of us. And so what are you going to do? Not play after you drive 4 or 5 hours? We were young and dumb. We were dressed appropriately, but that was the coldest and worst wind, not the worst wind, but due to the weather that I ever played in. I'd have to go back and look at what year that was. I wish I could look. I have looked at this up before, like the weather conditions for that event. And it was brutal. It was really brutal. But now, I'll go out and play. I don't go out very often because most people don't invite me out in the winter because they know in general I'm probably not going to go. But I will. Every once a year, usually we get together with a bunch of guys. We play some winter golf over at Dretska. So, yeah, I don't mind playing. I'll go down to probably 5 to 10 degrees is like as cold probably as I'll want to go. If it gets that cold, I'm usually like, eesh, it's cutting it tight. But if it was like a calm day, I would be a little bit more apt for it. Buzz Swan says a fancy game table is a worthy goal. Yeah, and the nice thing is like with this laundry room, my wife's on my case. Wives, am I right? No. She's eager to have it done because our laundry room is a disaster. It's a bunch of cabinets with no doors. I've got a set of sawhorses in there, so because I need to finish off the panels with the right. We're not even sure what type of wood finish we want to use. I ordered some samples, and they'll be here in a day or so. So once we figure out the right stain, then I can stain them, and then I can screw them in and make sure they're attached to the wall. All the fun stuff that I'll finally get them close to being done. But yeah, she's eager. At least a game table, I can do at my own pace. It's like it's a thing for me. Just to say I built a table, and I wouldn't mind building a chair someday, but I have no use. I got no. Most of the things I build have some sort of use to them. I don't have a use for a chair. Like, what am I going to do? Build a chair? Like one chair? Yeah. It's not a lazy boy. Can't sleep in it. I might build a bed frame. That would be actually a worthy thing as well, because the bed frame that we have is kind of chintzy. My wife got it off some website, and she's like, it looked better when I bought it, and it had good reviews, but I've already literally had to repair it once. There was a leg that was cracked and broke. It has 6 legs. The 2 center ones, it must have not been level, and then it kind of buckled in and cracked. So I had to replace that. It was just basically cutting a piece of wood with a slot and sliding it in there. The problem is now it's right where it's not quite the exact spot where it was. It's out probably another 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, and my wife says she stubs her toe on it like once a month. So I could see building a nice bed frame as well at some point with a headboard. Tim Court says the coolest day of my life is when I went to the Bengals San Diego AFC Championship game in '82. Yeah, the coldest football game I went to was a Packers. I think it was Packers and 49ers at Lambeau, and windy and cold. The only thing saving you is that you've got 60,000 other people there with you, so your body doesn't feel cold. It's your feet. Like the feet are the worst. And I was wearing I think 2 pairs of socks, and the wind was still whipping through by your feet and freezing my feet. And I had these nice warm boots on. It still wasn't enough. So that's what I tell everybody if they're going to a winter game where it's going to be cold. I said, just your body will be fine as long as you dress relatively appropriate. Just cover up them feet, man. Cover up them toesies. Yeah. It's ya. Artie says, make a jig and make many chairs. Again, I just don't have use for chairs. Haven't heard of AGI or AGL. Haven't heard of AGL tests. The AGI, I thought you were talking about ChatGPT thing again. No one's got AGI yet. AGL discs. I have not heard of AGL discs, I don't believe. Artie says, this is a quality story. I like learning about Lambeau. Lambeau Field is fun. I don't get to go nearly as much. I went a lot more when I was in high school. Well, I guess relative speaking, for the years I was in high school, I went more than the years I have been out of high school. I've gone more since out, but spread them out more. Because one of my best friends, my college roommate, my first college roommate, and this kid that I've known since kindergarten, quite literally. I went to his birthday party when we were like 6 years old. We're still friends, surprisingly. I'm kind of like Terry. His grandfather was on the committee to build Lambeau Field. So they've had season tickets forever. Like literally right on the 50-yard line, right behind, like 8 rows back from the Packers. And he used to take us like one game every year or so. Or we'd go with him. If his family wanted the tickets, we'd get different tickets. He had a way to get different tickets. So I went to more games when I was in high school and had some phenomenal seats for some fun games. But he still goes. Obviously, him and his brother split the season tickets, and they go all the time. They go to most home games. Pretty cool. So, all right, everybody. It's almost 10 o'clock tonight. I want to thank everyone for joining us. There wasn't a lot of disc golf tonight. We're kind of in a holding pattern. We're just waiting for the start of the season. We've got the All-Star coming up in just over a week, right? Next week. Yeah, we got one more podcast until broadcasts. So hopefully, maybe I'll put some pictures of my laundry room in the Discord. I think I put one in there early, but I've built some drawers and added one or two more cabinets. So we're doing, if you care, we're doing Rift Sawn White Oak. That is the style and the look. It's a little trendy right now and a little expensive for some of the panels that we're doing, but it looks really nice. It does. Hopefully it's one of those classic looks that just lasts forever. Not that I care that much, because again, I don't really care how things are. I'm not an aesthetics person. Give me functionality. So, all right. For Terry Miller, who's not here tonight, because he's on a plane, landing, hopefully wheels down, head up in a couple hours here back to Milwaukee. He's going to be going from Southeast Asia weather to Milwaukee winter weather, which no one is going to enjoy. He's going to get off the plane, and not even get off the plane practically. It'll just land and he'll be cold. But for Terry Miller and myself, this is podcast episode 545. I will see you next week with Terry Miller and maybe a guest. We'll see if someone's available for next week when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.